Peter the Vicar here. I've got a brilliant verse to share with you at the end of this video, so keep listening. It's a verse which delivers to us a promise of God that he will heal us, will bring us through times when there's a real possibility of being affected by a terrible disease or other sort of health problem. And he promises, through giving himself a particular name or title, that we will be brought through it by his power, by trusting in him. We'll get to that, but first let's look at something fascinating about how we approach the problem of a major disease such as this coronavirus affecting the nation at the moment, and that is that God is the source of science. Scientific thought is based on a belief in God. The development of science happened throughout Christian lands. In fact, during the real development of modern science, all of the people who founded the different disciplines of science were Christians, and I mean all of them. And the development of science is such that it's based upon belief in God, that there's an ordered world, that God has created it out of his own mind, and so therefore there's an orderly thought behind it. There's a planner, and therefore there are going to be rules or laws that govern it. And it's this basis that brings us to be able to have the scientific method. And in fact, even the scientific method is in the Bible. If you have something that is falsifiable, this was used in the Bible, the idea of falsification was used in the Bible, for example, to determine whether someone was a true prophet of God, was really speaking for God. You would assess what they said and then perform basically an experiment. You would see if what they said came true, then you would see that they were a true prophet, but if not, then they were not. And that makes it falsifiable. The claim that they were a prophet could be determined to be false. And that's one of the bases of scientific method. You can only make a claim really in science according to this scientific method if you're able to make a claim that could be falsified. So it's possible to prove that it is wrong, and then if experiments are proved, if research is done to try and prove that what you claim is wrong, and they are unable to show it, then for the time being at least, your scientific hypothesis or your claims are true. That's how science works. And so there's a basis for science in the Bible. It's based upon God himself. And God himself, well, in the verse we have at the end, God himself regards himself as being part of this process of delivering us from disease and bringing us through times when a plague might hit us. At this moment, we're waiting on a vaccine being discovered. The discoverer of vaccines in the first place was Edward Jenner. Edward Jenner was a committed Christian, and his discovery of vaccines as a way of preventing spread of disease was attributed to him with good reason. He said shortly before his death, noting that people had a problem with gratitude, he said this about his discovery and where the true thankfulness should be directed. He said this: "I am not surprised that men are not grateful to me, but I wonder that they are not grateful to God for the good which he has made me the instrument of conveying to my fellow creatures." He attributed to God the discovery because God had used him merely as an instrument of the discovery of vaccines which can be developed for viruses, and the coronavirus vaccine will be extremely useful as it is developed using the scientific method. And God himself promises that he will bring healing. Back in the Old Testament, God brought the people of God out of slavery in Egypt. And the way that he did this was to bring plagues upon the Egyptians. And it was in this situation, in this context, that God says this in Exodus chapter 15, verse 26. He says, if you listen carefully to the Lord your God and do what is right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands and keep all his decrees, I will not bring on you any of the diseases I brought on the Egyptians, for I am the Lord who heals you. And that's our scripture for today. This promise of God through him giving himself a name or a title. God says to us, God says to you, listen carefully, I am the Lord who heals you. Amen.